For 18 months, Ambassador Nikki Haley has made it her mission to make sure it's not business as usual at the UN. She has repeatedly called for reform as her boss, President Trump, has pulled away from the international consensus on key issues, pulling the US out of the Paris Climate Agreement, the Iran deal, the UN's cultural agency UNESCO, and cutting all funding for UNRWA, the part of the UN that helps Palestinians. Most recently, she announced the US was withdrawing from the UN Human Rights Council, the first country ever to do so. She said it was in part because of its bias against Israel.
Pulling out of the Human Rights Council for the US was a huge miscalculation. I mean, you can see their influence in the council since it was created in 2006 on various different issues. By pulling out, they don't have that kind of influence anymore. So even leading Jewish organizations on human rights have commented that how can the US continue to support Israel inside of the council when they're not in it anymore.
A year ago, Haley visited Geneva, the home of the Human Rights Council, urging major reform. Before the US pulled out of the body last week, the US put forward a proposal to its close allies on a way to reform it, but they weren't even prepared to discuss the plan. The ambassador herself wrote a letter to human rights groups. Last month, our mission circulated a draft Human Rights Council strengthening resolution to a small group of member states for edits. To this date, we've received not one written edit from a single member state. Ambassador Haley has been a key player in the Trump administration's policy of disruption on the international stage. But some diplomats believe it may be beginning to backfire. On some issues, the US may be finding it harder to persuade its allies and bully its adversaries here at the UN.
I think that, especially on issues relating to the Middle East, the US faces a crisis of credibility at the UN. And even its closest allies, such as the UK, are distancing themselves from American positions on Iran and on Israel. And that is really making Trump look very isolated.
Earlier this month, in an effort to block a draft Security Council resolution on Gaza, Ambassador Haley tried to rally support, begging fellow ambassadors to support her own rival draft. But she was the only member of the Security Council to vote in favour of it. Increasingly at the UN, the policy of America first seems to be resulting in America alone. James Bays, Al Jazeera, at the United Nations.